Okay, so my name's Ethan Valentine. Welcome to this presentation. Within this presentation, I'm going to be doing a critical reflection of unconscious biases within my PE session. Okay, so the purpose of this presentation is to critically reflect on the teaching practice to help progress the process of becoming an expert teacher. But first, to do this, it's important to understand what reflective thinking is and why we actually do it. So, reflective thinking then consists of taking conscious, systematic, and deliberate action in the classroom through ongoing inquiry, in which teachers continuously revise their practices using a cycle process towards higher quality standards of teaching. Reflective thinking then is a skill that can be acquired and developed, and the knowledge obtained from reflective thinking contributes to teachers' professional development, therefore, a vital part of becoming that expert teacher. Within this critical reflection, I'll use Rolf Essel's model as a guide to make sure I reflect on my teaching, evaluate and analyze my teaching, and finally provide action for future teaching using the what, so what, and now what. Looking back then, the session was based on a Key Stage 3 Year 11 group, so that would have been like a Year 7 group. And the two things that we focused on was preparation for life and participation, which was to build confidence and interest. And then the second one, health and fitness, emphasis on fun and enjoyment. It was a first session with the group. So the first time the group had ever had a PE session together, the first time I'd have a session with the group. And the aim of it was to promote long-term interest in physical activity. The activities that we decided to do was basketball, a competitive team sport, and the approach to delivering these, we used a whole part whole method, which included fun and engaging activities such as the clap and catch game and the one leg throw and catch game. The games tended to be more enjoyment focused, with little focus really beyond that. But within this critical reflection, I'll be using and reflecting on action. As Grant 2016 states, this type of reflective activity transcends on examination of outcomes and assumes an attitude of holistic curiosity, questioning one's own assumptions, values, frames of reference, theoretical understanding, and personal emotional responses. So the first part that I'm going to be focusing within this reflection will be competitive team sport basketball. I'll be looking at reasoning as to why I chose to do a competitive team sport within my lesson and whether this was an effective unconscious decision to make, drawing on 2 points in particular: the teacher-led behaviorist approach to learning and elements of power relations. So what? There is some evidence to suggest that the biographies of these recruited to PE teaching have an influence on their ongoing values and subsequently their thinking and practice. Evidence suggests that teachers' own experience of school PE and sports have a significant impact on both their sporting identities and their teaching identities. According to Evans and Williams, 1989, the most common reason for entering the PE profession in England is the love of sport itself. Additionally, McDonald et al. 1997 has noted that there is a good deal of evidence to suggest that students have attracted to careers in teaching PE primarily because it gives them an opportunity to continue their association with sport, an area of activity with which they have had extensive and positive experiences. Value in sport, then, therefore, to be a pervasive and enduring influence on teachers' philosophies. It is not altogether surprising that there is some evidence to suggest that PE teachers are generally comfortable with the more traditional and sport-based curriculum models with which they themselves grew up with. Therefore, sports in general and team games in particular was seen as sine qua non of the PE curriculum for many, if not all PE teachers, regardless of where their balance point of their ideological leanings lay. This meaning we as sport teachers see it as absolutely necessary to teach team competitive sport based on our own identity of being players and students in the past and what we've enjoyed and perceived successful. With that being said, my unconscious bias to choosing competitive team sport is built around views that are close to my own. However, this doesn't necessarily mean that this was the most effective decision moving forward, as my own experiences will be different to someone else's. Having that one directional approach to creativity in teaching will limit students' potential, prevent them from exploration, and could even cause dropout from physical activity once they leave school. The second point, which I want to highlight, is power relations. So according to Paul Benjamin and Haji Yahia 2019, Many younger teachers feel like a lack of agency over what they teach. For example, within this reflection, our lecturer Harry provided us with several options to choose a particular sporting activity or to choose one that wasn't even on the list. My decision remained one that was on the list. My perceptions of Harry being more knowledgeable and a more experienced teacher than me justifies why I made my decision. Although I think this would have affected my decision, I would argue it's a combination of my own experiences with competitive team sport and the power relations that justified the decision making. But the issue with this then is that there is an agency for teachers like myself to make their own decisions around what they feel is the right thing to do and right thing to be delivered in sessions. However, in my situation, I doubted my ability to change the norms or challenge the norms of previous teachers and provide an alternative part of the national curriculum. The idea here of me learning from experts relates directly to Albert Bandura's social learning theory. The theory usually works well in early stages of learning. However, copying the expert will only ever limit you to becoming the expert. As an expert practitioner, you should be able to challenge the views of the expert, use multiple views of different experts to create your own sort of philosophy. Now what? Within this part of the presentation, I'll look at future actions to consider to allow me to improve my teaching and shift away from this biased choice of teaching competitive team sports. This will be done by offering alternatives that will improve learning and engagement in the classroom. So, open-mindedness has been discussed as a desired personality characteristic in teachers. According to Rokeach, 1960, individuals with less open-minded thinking dispositions typically have less flexibility in their belief systems and engage in black and white teaching. Therefore, my now what in teaching is to approach lesson planning with more open-mindedness, as despite the success I've had with my own experiences as a student, these are very one-directional and do not apply to everyone. An example of being more open-minded is allowing students to make their own decisions on what they want to learn, and even asking them what sports they want to take part in to learn these things, rather than asking myself these questions. And in some cases, not even asking myself these questions, just assuming the answers. And the second point is applying multiple theories to learning is what I will do to further enhance the PE sessions. The application of multiple theories will allow students to apply their learning in the classroom according to their own comfortable learning style, which is most effective for them in turn will enhance the student's learning process. Additionally, applying multiple learning theories will be a useful tool to prevent my own teacher biography from affecting the way I teach and leak into the sort of the sessions. Instead, it will pass more responsibility to students, making learning more of an authentic experience. Okay, so the second part that I'm going to focus on, the whole part whole method. Whilst delivering the whole part whole method, there was a lot of stop and start. A lot of time was spent with me talking and students listening. And yet again, an unconscious decision was made about choosing to deliver a whole part whole method. I did not even consider another approach or research another approach to find one that would be the most benefit. But why is the question that I'll be exploring in this part of the presentation. In the eyes of Ken Green, 1998, ideological perceptions of PE are ones that are considered retrospectively rather than inferential. PE teachers' philosophies are typically grounded in their durations, two particular salient features of which are their habitus and context, meaning their philosophies are chosen from what they believe works as they know the result. It's almost a safe way of working because they know what's going to happen, but that doesn't necessarily mean it is the most effective way to teach. Bordeaux's idea of habitus can be used to explain why I chose the whole part whole method. As he suggests, we tend to work on yesterday's social reality, acting as an automatic, blindly functioning apparatus of self-control. In the eyes of Van Krieken, 1998, childhood and youth are seen as the main transmission belt for the development of habitus. Therefore, it is somewhat unsurprising then that teachers like myself are inclined towards replicating because they feel more comfortable with traditional approaches to traditional curricula. The whole part whole method is something close to my own experience and something I've deemed successful in the past, meaning which has now become part of my philosophy. The issue with this, in fact, is that the national curriculum is this massive, broad thing, and my philosophy only focuses on one small part of it, not exposing my students to an array of teaching experiences. Allowing my personal beliefs and experiences to shape my philosophy limits teaching in the classroom. If becoming that expert teacher is something we thrive to do, then sticking to what is comfortable not only prevents students from reaching their potential or finding something that they want to pursue in later life, but will limit me from becoming an expert teacher. One way in which this one-directional approach affects the maintenance of students' interest in education is by limiting creativity. Creativity should be valued in education circles, and teachers themselves need to take action through policies and initiatives to further teaching behaviours that foster creativity. Otherwise, creativity will remain hidden from our young world citizens. To summarise this, Jenkins suggests that teaching practice is fundamentally shaped by beliefs that are stable and resistant to change. They are influenced by past experiences of learning and some of the broad traditions of education, yet of greater interest is that educators' philosophies of teaching are influenced by their current practice, their interaction with learners, and the challenges of the day-to-day learning context. This is not a reflection to say that my decision of choosing the whole pot method was completely wrong. However, reflecting on this as something replicated weekly in education does offer limitations. Despite learning taking place, becoming an expert practitioner is about finding ways more effectively to teach. Therefore, as teachers, we have agency to change our philosophies and affect the way we deliver education. Now what? Following on from the previous slide, my teaching philosophy is constantly evolving. By this, I mean by removing the norms and unconscious decisions from my philosophy, using Takeda's 2012 idea of an evolving philosophy and a car. I will take my students not down the same road that they're comfortable with, but down a road where both them and me, are able to learn in sync. In doing so, this poses more risks, but also more benefits, meaning my reflection moving forward needs to be more critical. But over time, as a practitioner, as I become a better practitioner, these roads become less scary for both me and the students, as we're able to navigate around these roads a lot more easily. Sometimes, especially in the earlier stages of teaching, I may need to unlearn some previous pedagogical approaches to understand how the new environment works. Gaining this positive attitude towards change will improve my readiness in becoming an active participant in an evolving philosophy. Normalizing the change takes time, and constant observation and evaluation are essentially required to ensure that the change is in effect a real improvement over the past practices. In this case, it means noticing the unconscious decisions you make and acting on them instead of just letting them pass by. While this paper only covers my reflection on one part of the session I've delivered, I trust that my teaching philosophy will keep on evolving and evolving over time throughout my career as long as I stay teaching. The teaching context, such as courses, levels, and proficiency of students, may change, but my philosophy will keep on evolving, including more ideas about students and their experiences, more problems and solutions about teaching, and more about my growth as a teaching professional. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed.